Good evening, you're watching Estuary News, I'm Hugh Richards. In the headlines tonight, a man is convicted of murdering another man in Hull, police name another murder victim in Hull, and plans to redevelop the Lordline building. And later in tonight's programme, I'll be talking to Brian Harper on a charity CD to commemorate the end of the First World War, and before that, Rashida Green on a night of Bollywood entertainment in Grimsby. A Hull man has been convicted of murder. 31-year-old Jarrad Marsh died of stab wounds following a confrontation with 63-year-old Colin Kadamatri at a homeless hostel on Albert Avenue in the city on the 20th of January. It took the jury at Hull Crown Court less than an hour to return a guilty verdict against Kadamatri. The court heard how Kadamatri killed Marsh during an argument over money and beer. Both men had a history of alcohol problems. Kadamatri will be sentenced on the 30th of July. And police have named a man who was murdered in Hull over the weekend. 52-year-old Rolandus Poskas was found on a grass area on Dane Park Road on the Orchard Park estate on Friday. He was originally from Lithuania and was living in Hull. Two women, aged 42 and 18, and a 23-year-old man remain in custody in connection to Mr. Poskas's murder. There are calls to redevelop Hull's Lordline building. Two recent applications to revamp the derelict building were rejected by Hull City Council. Adam Fowler of the Hull and Humber Environment Forum says they're on the lookout for someone to transform the whole area into something economically viable and celebrate the heritage of the building.
St Andrew's Dock is a very special place for thousands of people, not just in Hull but around the world. It was the base of the world's largest deep-sea fishing industry, and really what we have left today with the Lordline buildings and the few derelict buildings around it and a silted up dock, the old St Andrew's Dock, is all that's left. And what we've said from day one is, now I've been fighting since 1989 really to try and get that area sympathetically restored, so save as much heritage as we can, protect the water space and put some water back into the dock, have a memorial to all those thousands of trawlermen lost at sea, but also somewhere special where families and loved ones and anyone associated with the fishing industry in the former Hezza Road fishing community can go and pay their respects and just be at one really with an industry that has almost disappeared. What we've had recently, last week, was when Hull City Council had to consider an application on its own to refurbish the Lordline building, and that was rejected unanimously because we felt it wouldn't have encouraged the overall wide-scale redevelopment of the whole site. And really that's what we're looking for. We're looking for somebody to come along. Now, if it's not the existing two developers who own Lordline building and the dock area, they really need to step aside, and we need to get somebody working in partnership with the City Council, with Humber Leb, to look at how we can sympathetically regenerate that site.
Planned strike action at Hull College has been called off. A 7-day walkout was due to start today in a dispute over plans to cut more than 200 jobs across the group's 3 sites to deal with a £10 million deficit. However, the college has agreed to try to complete the restructure to avoid compulsory redundancies. UCU regional official Julie Kelly said the union will work with the college to help minimise the impact of the restructure on staff and students. There are concerns over the future of Hull's Whitefriar Gate after another store announced its plans to close its doors. Capo Gifts will be closing down, with Pound World also going into liquidation. There are also fears for New Look based on Whitefriar Gate after the retailer reported losses of more than £74 million. It was announced earlier this month that the retailer House of Fraser will close several stores in our region, including the Hull branch. On tonight's Hot Topic, I'll be speaking to former Hull City Councillor Alan Clark about the future of the High Street.
Well, I'm quite disappointed about them having Hull on that list because, as Councillor Hale has already had a meeting with them, along with various other officers, that store actually makes profit. So we're really bemused as to why they want to shut that store down. It's just bewildering. It really is. My personal view is that a company needs to make profit so it can progress. I don't have a problem with that because it needs to do that. But how big a profit do you need to make? to really to make it work and to be able to progress. And I think this is where the issue is and the problems are with a lot of companies right now at the moment.
And you can see that interview in full as part of Hot Topic tonight at 8:30 here on Estuary TV. East Yorkshire Motor Services has been taken over by Go North East. They've purchased the Hull-based firm and its subsidiary company Scarborough and District Motor Services. EYMS transports more than 17 million passengers annually and runs around 300 buses and coaches throughout Hull, the East Riding and the North Yorkshire coast. The acquisition comes after EYMS proprietor Peter Shipp is to step down from the company after 38 years. Plans are in full swing for this year's Hull Pride. The event will be held on the 21st of July and is Yorkshire's biggest LGBT celebration. Confirmed acts include this year's UK Eurovision Song Contest representative Estuary and X Factor finalist Lloyd Daniels. Matt Walton is the chair of Pride in Hull and hopes the event will build on last year's very successful event.
Yeah, we're really excited for Pride in 2018. We are building on everything that we achieved last year. We had 44,000 people through the park over the course of the day last year. So we know that was a successful format. So people can expect a very similar kind of thing. Lots of food. People told us that they wanted more options. So we're having a full food festival as part of it this year. We know that everybody loved the idea of having people from different eras performing throughout the day. So again, expect people from the 80s, from the 90s if you're of the same generation as me, and a few current names as well. And yeah, it's just going to be a really fun, exciting day. So many people told us that it was one of the best days of their life last year, and when you consider how many great things happened in 2017 in Hull, that is absolutely huge. So just more of the same, really. If you saw the parade through Hull last year, people lining the streets to see those wonderful paraders in their great outfits and with their effigies of LGBT people that they were carrying through the streets. It was so nice to see, and it was so heartwarming to see that the people of Hull turned out for the LGBT community. But we always say that we make sure that Pride in Hull is a really family-friendly event. So you can bring your grandma, you can bring your kids, you can bring your dog, you can bring whoever you want. It is a very, very family-friendly event, and it's very welcoming.
Now, a night of live Bollywood entertainment takes place in Grimsby next month, and to tell me more about it is Rashita Green. Rashita, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Before we go any further, thank you for the bargees. Do you want to go
Pleasure.
first? So
no, it's all for you.
It's all for me, is it? Okay, well, have a go. I'm going to ask a question that needs a long answer while I eat this,
sure.
Please. What is the event, where is it, and when is it?
So the event is called Hungama. We had one last year, which was sort of the debut year of Hungama. Hungama literally means a lot of noise.
Right.
And the idea behind is to create a lot of noise around a certain issue and hopefully raise some much needed funds. Last year we did it for When You Wish Upon a Star, and specifically to send at least 2 children on their Santa Express. And we were really fortunate to raise about £800, which meant we could do that. We could send 2 children on the Santa Express. This year we're doing it for a charity called Remember My Baby, which is a fantastic charity. It's national, but there are a lot of local photographers who volunteer with it, and they do some amazing work.
Oh, absolutely delicious, by the way.
Thank you.
Sorry. Well, thank you for talking through the whole duration of the budget. So what does this charity actually do there? You talked about photographers, and
yes.
What's the importance of their role?
Well, I've tried always to pick charities, which necessarily haven't had a direct impact for me, but for a lot of people that I know, a lot of women and families go through, the painful process of losing a child, and these charities, this charity in particular, helps create some memories for the parents to hold on to, and that's where the photographers come in. And it's a hard job to go in and look after parents who are bereaved, and commendable. So
this is just so they have some beautiful images of
Absolutely,
the child that they've
yes,
lost
to hold on to, yes.
And to keep them going.
Absolutely.
So I hope I didn't oversell it when I said a Hollywood extravaganza. Let's start off with your own specific contribution, which is, I suspect, the food. This
yes.
is the fantastic food that you always bring. It's very, very great for you to see, Rashita. What else will be going on apart from food?
There's a lovely troupe called the Bollywood Bells, who are from Leicester, but they're coming in to entertain everyone on the night. There's a fantastic photo booth by Perfect Memento Photo Booths. There's a Prosecco bar who are serving cocktails designed specially for the night, so they're sort of Indian flavours. They'll be there.
Really? Okay.
Yes, we've got some beautiful decoration from a local company called Studio 7 Creative. So the idea is very much having local people join in and create this amazing night for people and hopefully raise some money.
And this is all very much welcome to young and old alike.
Absolutely, even children. Even children are welcome because it's all about bringing the family together.
And there's always this great sort of party atmosphere, isn't it?
It's absolutely. Last year we had an amazing time. We had loads of people there. We had about 80 people there, I think. We had henna tattoos. The photo booth was there as well last year. I think somebody's offered a lambretta as well that people can pose on. So it's all going to be fantastic.
And would you be providing some food?
Yes, definitely. There's a 3-course meal, all done by Masala Masters, and it's my personal contribution towards the night. With St Mark's Church. The venue is St Mark's Church on Laceby Road, and they have very kindly, let us have the hall for the day so we can set up.
And just remind me of the date again.
It's the 14th of July, Saturday the 14th of July, 7 p.m. onwards.
Brilliant. I'm sure that will be an absolutely fantastic event, even if it's only just for the food. When you go, leave the bargees.
Yes, definitely. All for you.
Join me after the break. Jack brings us a roundup of all the latest sports news, and I'll be talking to Brian Harper about a charity CD. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come tonight, Jack brings us a roundup of all the latest sports news, and Brian Harper will be telling me about his charity CD. The Humber Modern Slavery Partnership says there are around 250 victims of modern slavery in Hull. The organisation says a further 17 victims were identified in East Yorkshire and northern Lincolnshire last year. It adds that it needs funding to tackle the problem. The partnership received only around £4,000 since it was set up in 2015, and volunteers carry out most of the work. A pair of landlords have been fined more than £2,000 after they left a back garden looking like a tip. North East Lincolnshire Council's Community Protection and Compliance team visited the property on Grimsby Road in Cleethorpes last year following complaints about rubbish mounting up in the back garden and holes in the roof where birds had started nesting. Officers asked the landlords to tidy the garden, but when they returned, they found the waste hadn't been cleared and more had been dumped. 51-year-old Bhupendra Patel and 44-year-old Rita Patel were found guilty in their absence at Grimsby Magistrates Court of failing to comply with an abatement notice served under the Environmental Protection Act. The court imposed a fine of £660 per defendant and split the costs of £550 between them. There was also a victim surcharge of £66. A new strategy to tackle homelessness has been launched in Lincolnshire. Known as Lincolnshire Homelessness Partnership, the strategy has been developed by Lincolnshire Council and all of Lincolnshire's district authorities. It sets out the key challenges, priorities and objectives for tackling homelessness in Lincolnshire over the next 5 years. In 2016 to 17, there were 1,078 homeless applications to authorities in the county. East Riding Council has released a series of 7 cycle maps on smartphones. The maps cover 41 rides of varying lengths across the county, including Beverley, Bridlington and Driffield. They give information on facilities for cyclists, such as cycle shops, tourist attractions and B&Bs. Designed by the council's transport policy team, the maps can be found on the authority's website. Plans are being drawn up for a new leisure facility in Market Rasen. The local authority has purchased land on Gainsborough Road, with the new facility expected to be operational by the summer of 2020. The development is part of West Lindsey District Council's £6 million investment in leisure and will include a 3G pitch, a fitness suite and a sports hall. Now, a local Cleethorpes musician has put together a CD to mark 100 years since the armistice of 1918 and the end of the First World War, and I'm joined by him now. Brian Harper's come in with a wonderful instrument to show off as well. Brian, welcome. Thank you so much for coming in.
Hi.
Firstly, you better tell us about this wonderful cornet.
This cornet was owned by a boy soldier of the Manchester Regiment, and they were stationed in Cleethorpes during World War One, and he would have played that on Cleethorpes Pier with the regimental band as they were regular performers on the pier.
And do you know what his fate was, what his destiny was?
He survived the war, but due to civil unrest in Mesopotamia, he ended up there just after the war and was actually taken prisoner of war. But he did return home in about 1920, I believe, and back to his hometown in Bottisford.
Civil unrest in Mesopotamia, nothing changes, I'm afraid, does it? Now, you've produced this CD and you're also producing a concert. First of all, you better tell me when and where the concert is.
The concert is on the 3rd of November at Grimsby Central Hall, and it promises to be something quite unique, we think, because it's not just an act of remembrance, but there's other things of local interest. We can have screened images, there's a narrative to go with it. We've even got some rather interesting refreshments at the interval made to authentic World War I recipes, which should be interesting.
It sounds horrible.
I'm not saying a word.
As anyone who's seen Blackadder will know how horrible that is. Who will be performing?
It's the Cleethorpes Brass Band, of which I'm the musical director. But we also have support, the narrator, and we've got a couple of actors as well from Caxton's Theatre that will be doing a couple of very short poetry readings.
Well, first of all poetry is always very moving, irresistible, isn't it? Presumably the bill of fare in terms of the music also very reminiscent of that conflict?
It is. It features music of the era. It was a bit tough finding items, really, because a lot of the entertainment of the time, certainly locally, was sort of the music hall. And that type of music doesn't transcribe very well for brass band, and some of it is a little bit, let's say, bawdy.
Well, they were soldiers going off to war, Brian.
Well, quite. I appreciate that. But one of the items we are playing, the local press reported in 1915 that the Band of the Manchesters played the Overture Poet and Peasant on Cleethorpes Pier. So that will be one of the items that we're hoping to recreate on the night.
Now, to get back to this cornet, the CD, which I'll hold up here, is very elegantly produced. And inside it, if I can break into it, is a picture of the owner of this cornet. What's on the CD and where can people get their hands on that?
It's a CD of a few World War I popular songs, Roses of Picardy, Your King and Country Want You, Because, and things like that. But perhaps the most poignant item on there is The Last Post, obviously because of its significance in remembrance. So that's on there as well, which would also serve for churches and schools that perhaps can't get a bugler on the day.
And you're playing this instrument?
Yes.
Which has taken a little bit of repair, but is in extremely beautiful shape by the look of it. And people can get this where?
They can get that from the St Andrew's Hospice shops in Louth and at Grimsby, and Grimsby Central Hall have got a few as well.
And all money raised from disc and concert to go to St Andrew's Hospice in Grimsby?
The CD, certainly, yes. All the profits from the CD will be going to St Andrew's Hospice.
Brian, thanks very much for coming in.
You're welcome, thank you.
Here's Jack with all the sports news.
In Rugby League, it was something of a mixed weekend for the two big Hull clubs. On Saturday, Hull FC fell to their first home Super League defeat of the season as they lost 14-10 to Wigan Warriors. Both sides exchanged points in a topsy-turvy game at the KCOM Stadium as Wigan led 8-6 at half-time. The Black and Whites got it back to 10-all in the second half, but Wigan won it late on in fortuitous fashion. Liam Marshall ran over to win it 5 minutes from time after being teed up following a Sam Tompkins drop goal attempt hitting the bar. Beretta Faraimo got both of Hull's tries late on to take his personal tally to 11 for the season, but it was second place Wigan who took the win, FC staying fifth. There was more late drama yesterday as Hull Kingston Rovers played out a thrilling 24-all draw with Castleford Tigers. The Robins ran in 2 tries in the last 10 minutes to steal a dramatic draw at the Menderhose Jungle. Jai Hitchcock scored 4 tries of his own for Cass as they led both 14-0 and then 24-12. However, Adam Quinlan and Mossy Meso both went over after the break as KR began the fight back. In a gripping finale, Junior Vaivai's second try of the game and Ryan Shaw's 4th conversion snatched the draw with just 4 minutes left. Rovers stay second bottom, but that draw means they moves them to win 3 points of Catalan Dragons and Salford Red Devils. In football, Hull City's Jackson Irvine came on as a substitute for Australia in their 2-1 defeat to France at the World Cup on Saturday. The Tigers midfielder played the final 20 minutes of the Socceroos' first game in the tournament. Irvine showed some nice touches at the Kazan Arena in Russia, but he just couldn't prevent his side from losing the game. An own goal from Aziz Behic, 10 minutes from time, secured victory for the French after Antoine Griezmann and Mile Jedinak traded penalties. Irvine could be in contention to start the Aussies' next Group C game against Denmark on Thursday. And in cricket, Cleethorpes returned to winning ways in the Yorkshire South Premier League. Chasing 178 against Wiston Parish Church for victory, Meggies opener Big Bill Kirby set about making quick work of the reply. Kirby hit 10 fours as he made 56 before being bowled out. That's his 450 in as many games. However, it was his opening partner Vusi Sibanda who was the real star of the show. The Zimbabwe international hit 3 sixes and 15 fours on his way to an unbeaten 111. That opening wicket partnership of 165 ensured a swift victory for Cleethorpes as they won by 9 wickets. That win moves the Meggies up to joint 8th in the table. And in the Lincolnshire Premier League, Grimsby Town lost by 4 wickets to Woodall Spa. Harry Warwick top scored with a knock of 51 as Grimsby were all out for 170. In reply, Woodall lost just 6 wickets as they successfully chased down the total with 6.5 overs to spare. Grimsby staying at 8th, 1 place below Scunthorpe Town, whose match against Bracebridge Heath was abandoned with 1 wicket remaining due to a thunderstorm. That's all from me in the sport. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Jack. That's all we have time for tonight. My thanks to Rashita and to Brian. Thanks for bringing in the brass, Brian, but barges are better. If you have a story for us, then please visit Facebook or Twitter pages, email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 01472315553, or you can write to us in the old-fashioned way, Estuary TV, Nuns Corner, Laceby Road, Grimsby, North East Lincolnshire, DN 34 5BQ. Hope to hear from you in that way or some other. From all of us here, good evening.